hiding in the basement from your kids. I schedule these on Monday when I don't have the kids.
Literally, I like made dinner, got home from work, made dinner. It's like, all right, I'll be back. I'm going downstairs. So I can hear my little one's footsteps going back and forth and my husband. That's the way him chasing him, doing all the stuff.
There was this time that so my aunt does a lot for Gwinnett County and Georgia politics. Like she like leads fundraisers and stuff like that. She's always in a picture with somebody like Lucy Bath and like
Oh my
Raoul.
God.
Yes, like everybody. And she had me on one of her panels as a nationwide panel, and Michelle Obama was going to be on the same like in the same thing. Like I was going to do a section, then they were going from section to section. I told Rob, I said, your one job is to keep these children away from me. I have 5 minutes. This is nationwide. It is live. I cannot embarrass my family name right now. And so I'm in the middle of my spiel, and what happens? The door slams open. The kids come in. They're fighting. I push them out. I'm standing in front of the door while they're like banging on it while I'm finishing my live segment, and I can just see my aunt losing her mind over here. Wrapped that up. I went downstairs and I was like, he's laying down on a bed.
Ain't
And
no
I,
way.
yes,
Ain't
I,
no way.
what the hell just happened? And he goes, I sent them up there to get a diaper.
No, thank you.
Okay, you know what? This marriage just became a ticking time bomb.
'Cause ain't no way. I asked you to do one thing this one time. Just keep them away from me for 5 minutes. That's it.
It's a huge deal. It's national. It reminds
Yeah.
me of God, that woman who was running and then her husband, she was about to reach the finish line. She was coming in first and her husband put her kids in front of her before she got to the finish line. I'll send it to you. It was called, okay, anyway, he's doing good. Kids are upstairs.
Yeah, and we have a gate to the basement and he does really good. Like my youngest, has been at home with me almost his whole life. He just started going part-time to daycare, which is a little stressful for me, but like he's always like, get from under your mama's foot. Come on, come with daddy. Let's just hope. And my 10-year-old, he just wants to play the game. So if I let him play the game, then I don't exist.
Yes.
He's easy.
Screen time is a tool for us.
Right.
For us. So I'm here today with Ashlei Spivey. She is an entrepreneur, the founder of a really growing C3 called Ivy Black Girl, and is now running for state ledge here in Nebraska. I'm so excited, not to mention all of the work that she's done in terms of Black maternal health and reproductive rights. And I kind of want to talk about as much of it as we can
Yeah.
in our 45 minutes. And she has 3 kids.
Well, I have two. So, well, kind of three, a little bit more. So I have my 10-year-old and my two-year-old that I biologically have. And then when my mother passed away, I raised my sister. And so I got custody of her when she was 12, turning 13. So I feel like she's my sister baby and is always, this is her space. I'm hiding out in the basement in her space at home. And then we have a blended family. So then my husband had kids prior. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so with this podcast and kind of the ethos of Good Mom, it's really not about like just our biological children it's the children that we take on. It's how we mother our communities. It's how we mother ourselves and all the different ways that we can be a good mom, in the world. So where are we going to start? Let's start with the race. When
okay.
did you decide you were going to jump in, and what was the conversation like in your family of I'm going to take this on?
Yeah, I have always kind of thought of it. So, like working in the social sector, I've worked adjacent to politics. So, I'm a registered lobbyist, which is technically a bad word, but I, advocate for policy and I'm at the state capitol and I've done that the last 7 years. And so, the thought around being on the other side and actually being the policymaker absolutely has crossed my mind. The timing just wasn't right. So, like, I had a baby 2 years ago and I was navigating really severe postpartum and depression and anxiety. And my husband and I are trying to build a takeout burger restaurant. And, like I never felt like, okay, is this the time for me to decide? And as the current sitting senator was about to term out and the deadline got closer for filing, I started to really like actively consider it like the time is going to be now, if I'm going to make this decision. And so I started with my family around, can we take on something else? What would that look like for me? What does it mean if my husband steps in a different way, and really my village too? And so I started having those conversations, and what really kind of made me say, like, yes, I'm going to do it. So I'm going through all the things like my board service roles and my job and going through all of those. And I'm on the phone in the car and I'm talking to my friend, going through the pros and cons, right? Like, because running for office takes a toll really on your family and you emotionally, especially like as a woman in the race than as a Black woman, right? And so, like, I need to be cognizant of that. And do I want that on my mental health? Like, can I prepare myself? So, like, just having very honest and real conversations. And my 10-year-old, and I see her, is in the back seat, just being nosy. And I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what do you mean what I'm talking about? He was like, on the phone. I'm like, I'm talking about running for office. He was like, you're going to run for office? I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about running for a state legislature. And he was like, well, what does it do? And I told him, he was like, you could totally do that, Mom. Like, I think that would be great. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, my 10-year-old believes in me. He sees, the potential and understands what it can do. So I'm like, let's just do it. And so he was like, his confidence in me really pushed me to say, like, all right, let's put my name in before the deadlines.
Yeah, and like it is something really magical when your kids are involved in what it is that you're doing from that place of support and like from this place of like, I didn't really get it, but I'm so proud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
And
you,
so, like, yesterday I had my campaign kickoff for the general election. And so he was the MC. And so, like, he introduced the speakers and I wrote out a script for him, which I think you would appreciate, Bo. We talk about the script. I have it printed for him. After he does the welcome, next thing I know, the script is on the side and he's improvising with the mic, right? Like, he's so into it. He's so excited. He gave a speech at my primary. And so I think I really grew up with my oldest in a very different way. He got the like figure it out mom. And so I think having his support and his confidence, seeing my growth, right? Like that means the world to me. So I'm really glad that like I have such an amazing kid on this journey with me.
love that so much. So you just had your campaign kickoff, and now you're kind of having events throughout the next couple of months. I was on the phone with Ariel today from Lily Creative
Yeah.
House, and so we're gearing up for September 17th. You're going to
Yeah.
be doing like a little, I guess, what are they, like a campaign?
Like a meet and greet. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, and so, for the primary, when I actually announced in conjunction with me receiving USA Today's Women of the Year for Nebraska for 2024. And so I had a 10-week sprint. So like very head down, let's get it done. And based on the work that I do, like I just apply that to my campaign, like being in community, knocking doors, like mobilizing. And I think my track record really made people believe in me in a different way. Like I didn't have to start over. Like they already trusted me in a very different way. And so I'm like, all right, for the campaign, I got 5.5. Once I make it through primary, I'll have a longer time. And it's like, no, it's still a sprint. So, like I'm still knocking on doors every day after this. I'm going to go knock doors and I'm just, working my strategy and I'm excited. I'm excited for the possibility to like actually bring real world experiences and perspectives and voice to the legislature and like advocate for folks that are navigating the same things I had to navigate and look like me and are from my community. And it's just, it feels really beautiful and a lot of responsibility, but
Yeah.
really beautiful. And like that people trust my leadership to carry that forward in Lincoln. And so it's been a great experience, like being in community in this way.
So you just said USA Today's Woman of the Year for Nebraska.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
And that's with your work. I think it's through your work with Ivy Black
Mhm.
Girl.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that and how you got that honor and what that must have felt like.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting it. So apparently the process is like, I don't know how they found me. Somebody might have nominated me. I don't know, but they were like, hey,
So you're famous. That's how they found you. You're
yeah,
famous.
right.
Yeah, you're famous.
Because I'm like, how did y'all find me? And at first I thought it was spam because, honey, people will spam your life. And so They were like, we're considering this for you. Will you fill out this questionnaire, this reporter? And I was like, sure. So I filled it out and that was it. And then they came and was like, okay, we're considering you. Take some pictures if you're selected. I'm like, okay. And then that was it. And then all of a sudden, like the article was published and I was in it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got it.
Mhm.
But it was around my work, around Black maternal health and building the first and only reproductive justice org in the state of Nebraska, a place where, reproductive rights, justice, maternal health are in crisis, honestly, like the rest of the country. And so it just felt really special when I thought about what IB Black Girl could be before we even had the name IB Black Girl, right? And we're just figuring out what we're doing. I never imagined, like, I thought that there was something there, but not what this is right now. Like, my mind is always blown that we get to do this work every day and the impact that we're having. And so it felt really special that, like, everyone nationally gets to see this too. Like,
Yeah.
and if this can happen here in Nebraska, imagine, right, like what you can do in other geographies and places. So,
I think that that's something that's really, there can be a lot of complaints about living where we live, but I think that's something that's really testament to living here is that you can build something. You can build
absolutely.
something with the right people in the right way, with the right motivation, and
Mm-hmm.
then it will grow from there, grow from this little seed that you once
Mm-hmm.
had that was like, oh, an idea in the middle of the night, that
Mm-hmm.
other people just get on board, help you manifest that vision. And then it does reverberate into other communities when
Yeah.
people can see what's possible. And
Yeah,
that's,
I even think about the work that you've done of even like how we met through OEAs and just seeing like you hosting and doing all of that and then all of the plays that you have written and your new organization and like the storytelling that you like it's just so beautiful and it's like it's nice because you feel accessible. Like you're not somebody that like you just see on social media. It's hard to get in touch with. Like, no, I see you at parades and I see you at this restaurant and you're building something and having this impact. And so I think that is one of the benefits of Omaha. Like everything feels accessible and that you can participate in it too.
yeah, I really love that. Speak that parade, you killed that parade. I was out there all morning. And then I was just like, so the parade, I'm gonna be honest, the parade started so weird. It was so quiet. I was like, okay, well, where's the music? It was like car after car, and but it was the vets. So, I'm like,
Yeah.
nice and stuff. You're like, yes, okay, I'm glad you're here. Great, great, great. But like, where's the music? Where's the rhythm?
Yeah.
And then I heard the drums from way up on Maple, and I was like, who's this guy? And then it was still you had like, I don't 20 lines of folks. It was so good.
Yeah, again, I feel fortunate for my community. And so folks are like willing to ride for me. And so we were able to really support a local drill team that's really pouring into youth to come play and like do their thing in the parade. And that was like my like last parade of the season. And like for my campaign, and every time it got better. Like when I did Florence parade in the primary, it was a few of us. We had a banner, we are handing out candy. We didn't have any music. So that was us. Right? Every parade has gotten better and better. So we had this big sign and all these folks walking with me and it was great. But that drill team, they did that. They
They
really
did
did.
it. They really did. And it was hot too.
It was hot. Not as hot as Pride Parade though. Pride Parade was like quite sweltering, but so it's a little bit better. But yeah, it was great. It was so great. And and I feel like that like gets me excited too. So you're like, Ashley, and I'm like, oh, like, and so as I'm walking, like folks from the district are like, I'm voting for you, or folks that I just grew up with, like, I see you, Ashley, and so like
Yes.
being from this community and people like seeing me in this way and being supportive is it's just such a good feeling. It really is.
So you're from Omaha, born and raised. And what was that like? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
Yep. So my grandma's still in the same house. I grew up on 34th and James, middle of North Omaha. And so lived there with my grandma, my grandpa, and my mom. So my dad was incarcerated most of my life. He has now passed away. And so I just grew up in a really strong woman-led home. My grandpa passed away when I was young, which was really hard. And so I went to Fontenelle Elementary. And then I ended up going to private school. I was a scholarship kid, so I went to Brownell Talbot, which was like a whole culture shock because there is a level of wealth in this city that has not been my experience. And so I remember I lived in Kellum Knowles at the time when I was in middle school. So right off of Hamilton Street, and like right across from Blackburn. And
Yeah.
so we moved there when they were first built. And I remember going to private school, and my apartment, my little 3-bedroom, 1-bath apartment with my mom, fit into the room of one of my classmates, and she had like her own bathroom suite connected to her room. And so I would go home and I'll be like, Mom, why don't I have my own credit card? My friends are going to Switzerland for the weekend. Where we going? And it's just, again, I'm not understanding why I'm different and why this is a different world. And so that was a very interesting experience. But then I went back into public school. So I went to North. That's where I graduated, which was a great experience. I played volleyball there, was a cheerleader on yearbook, just really,
Hmm.
really, really love the school. And so where I'm running for office has actually been my home most of my entire life. And so, yeah, it's just, this has been my hood, my community. And so it just feels good when you like see people that you've grown up with, or, like my friends' parents, and, like, and folks are just like, I see you, girl, keep doing it. We're praying for you. You got this.
A lot of that same experience. We grew up on Ethan Ames was my grandparents' house. And then we lived on 30th and Titus. That's where we
Okay.
grew up. I was homeschooled, but before that I was public schooled and then I was in Christian school. I was all over the place.
Yeah.
But I was with some friends who had like pianos.
Yeah.
I was like, where's my piano?
Right.
It was, and it's really like, I think it's a beautiful thing, actually, especially as we grow up and we become the parents. Number one, like recognizing that there may have been struggle, but my mother always had a roof over my head. There
Absolutely.
was
And we
always,
had a really great childhood, right?
yes,
Like,
oh yeah,
and I think that's the hard part. Sometimes it's like, oh, so, okay, I used to work at Heartland Family Service, for example, and I remember learning about adverse childhood experiences. They do a lot of work around trauma and what does that look like. And I remember them talking about this in this orientation. I'm new, I'm learning so I can do my job. And like I had like 5 or 6 aces, and I'm like, well, what this thing is saying about my childhood and how I grew up is not my experience. So like, yes, my dad was incarcerated. I had the best childhood with my mom. So it's just, yes, we were on food stamps.
yes,
I had food to eat. And so it's weird how sometimes that narrative doesn't match your actual experience.
yes, 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 yes. Okay, so I did the ACE score when I started going to therapy. I wanted to repair things with my mom because I was starting to see things in a very cynical way, like comparing what she did as a parent to what I would do as a parent, and like,
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
getting in my head about it really. And so my ACE score was like 7. And when I took it, I was just like, okay, well, did I ever feel like there wasn't going to be food? Yes. But I'm like, am I remembering this from my childhood or am I looking back as an
Yeah.
adult knowing that,
Yeah.
you know?
Hmm.
So I went to this week-long therapy retreat in California designed to basically forgive your parents and just like shrug all that off. The day I left, I was fighting with my mother. I was so mad at her. The
Hmm.
day I came back, I haven't thought about that again. I was like, my mother she's incredible. First of all, she is a community change agent. She is
Hmm.
a leader. She's loving. She's the daughter of a 14-year-old mother herself.
Hmm.
And as you start to like look back, like you can just see yourself in the way
Yeah.
of things and
Yeah.
just start to accept this is where I came from. I'm so lucky and blessed to be here. And now what can I do for who's next?
Yeah. My husband, we talk about that a lot, of just like being able to recognize that your parents and what they go through, and like that they're learning with you. They're not perfect, like that they have their own baggage and things. And so, like, for a long time, I remember being mad at my dad for being in prison. And my mom always left the door open. And, I wouldn't talk when he would call or write him back. But as an adult, when I'm able to actually process, like, I understand what incarceration does to families, or that his mom had a lot going on and she put him in child welfare that caused a lot of trauma that was never addressed. Like, you see these things, and so it's like you kind of, I think for me, like, I gave more grace and like trying to have more empathy, and that allowed me to try. It was too late. He had already passed away. So some of it I could not repair in the same way. So I love hearing that you and your mom repaired your relationship, but it just allows me to think about like those relationships differently. And what does that mean with my kids and like how I show up to them? Or, I think about my postpartum and like I was in a really bad place. That probably absolutely affects my 10-year-old. And, so what does that look like? Like, so just
Right.
makes me more like retro, like, I don't know, more internal reflecting and thinking back and then trying to, like you said, like process this and then how do I move forward?
Even if your father passed away once you had those reflections, they're still so important for you,
Yeah,
right? They're still so important in your next journey of the rest of your life.
absolutely.
The postpartum, okay, so I was speaking with a friend earlier. She was on about her like endometriosis and like this
Mm,
incredible, just horrific journey she's been through with doctors and trying
yeah,
to be heard and having to become her own advocate for her own health and like learning about what endometriosis was, right?
right.
As she navigated the healthcare system from a really young age. And we were talking about how women's health so often is just like thrown in the same pot. It's just like, okay, well, PMS, babies, endometriosis, PMDD,
Y'all
wait,
go.
shit. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, here you guys go. Um, and for me, it's really become like a passion in learning about it, in researching it, in writing about it. And obviously that's a shared passion. And so I want to like hear about like your journey with talking about reproductive health. And I think specifically Black maternal mortality, which is watching my family navigate that myself, is what got me into being so fascinated by it.
Yeah, I think for me, sometimes you're in things, but you don't know you're in things, right? Because as a Black woman, I'm navigating these instances of my race and my gender, and it creates such a unique experience, especially in this country around health. I always lift up Dr. Deirdre Cooper Owens. She is on our board at Ivy Black Girls. She's a historian. She actually used to be at UNL and then left and went back to UConn. But she has a book called Medical Bondage, and it looks at the history of obstetrics, and really how the torture and experimentation of enslaved African girls and women really birthed this whole field that we see modern medicine still practicing. And so I think even just the legacies of our bodies and what does that look like in the lack of autonomy and care we still see today. Like you said, your friend is navigating not being heard and the complexities of just a system in general. And so I think for me, like it has always surrounded me, but I didn't always have the language to use. And so my mother actually passed away because of neglect with her reproductive system. And I think losing her to a preventable cause really spiraled me, right? Like outside of my regular grief, but it's like, wait, so like not even that I don't have her, but like this is preventable. Like this is some bullshit. Like what is my role in this? And so as we were building Ivy Black Girl and thinking about, we don't want to be a direct service provider. We want to make sure we change the system. So like this is no one's experience. The work around birth justice and our experiences is accessible because it's preventable. 80% of deaths and the experiences that we're having are all preventable. And so, like, that's something that we can actively change. We can lead, especially if we center the people most impacted. And so, we really started to dig in, and I started to dig in the work in a very different way around, like, okay, what could this be? What does this look like? And so, there's, statistics that come out from like March of Dimes. The health department puts out statistics, but what you see in Nebraska is no different than the national statistics. We die 2 to 3 times at higher rates than our white counterparts. And really, where we see a huge impact is around the morbidity or near death experience. So these are folks that maybe are hemorrhaging during birth, and this is a traumatic experience. I'm never going to be the same. And yeah, I didn't die, but a piece of me inside is never going to be the same. And that shouldn't be my experience when I choose to be pregnant and parent. And so I think, navigating those spaces, it feels like a place where we can really transform what's happening around us. And we've been able to really build really good relationships with the people that are technically responsible for the care that folks are receiving. So it's been a journey and there's still a lot more to do, but it feels like we're starting to chip away at.
Yeah, it is. It's something that, to your point of like not knowing you're in something until you're in it, is I didn't have the language for that until after I given birth, until after I had Shine. And then I look back, because I think I don't remember what, but these stories started coming out about Black women who had died in labor,
Hmm.
specifically hemorrhaging.
Hmm.
And you know, if you were like me, I stay up late reading everything, terrifying myself.
Right. Going down a rabbit hole.
There's nobody there to stop me. Oh my God. I started retroactively looking at my birth experience and my cousin's birth experience, and I'm like,
Hmm.
this is what these stories are made of.
Hmm.
No
Yeah.
pain relief, no autonomy, you know, things are happening around you that you're not really a part of.
Right. It's like it's being done to you. And I
Yeah.
think that is the history of this medical system, whether you look at maternal child health or other aspects of like care, especially in the US, like it's done to us, not with us, and not with our power and choice. And so it's terrible. Even with my 2-year-old, like again, when I was reflecting on Nas, my 10-year-old, is like I just was in survival mode. Like I'm having this baby, I don't have my mom here. I'm just, what am I doing? But I didn't get good support on my breastfeeding. I just remember like I gave birth and I was by myself. Like the nurses weren't, like, I mean, it just was terrible.
Hmm.
And so then I'm like, okay, even with now my last son, a son, I was like, okay, like I have all this privilege, I have all this access, right? Like I'm gonna, and it wasn't even like that. Like I think some things were better, but I think during the pregnancy we had a scare around a genetic disorder. Both my husband and I are carriers, and we might have had to terminate the pregnancy because it wouldn't have been viable outside of my body. And just even having to navigate that and the lack of like information being told to me, the procedures to do the testing was really harmful and it hurt. It's just these traumatic experiences. And I think that's actually what started my depression, because I couldn't enjoy my pregnancy till I was 25 weeks when I know I can keep it or not, because why do I want to get connected to something that I won't be mine?
Right, right.
So then, yeah, the rest of the pregnancy, I'm trying to catch up. And then I'm worried, right? Like something is always going to happen. And then the spiraling with trying to breastfeed because I didn't get to do it my first. And I have to do it because that's what they say is best for the baby. And I'm going to be a good mom. And I'm
Yeah.
going to, like, so it just spiraled me in a way that I almost did not come back from. And
Yeah.
so I feel like, our responsibility at IB Black Girl is like, let's be that advocate and partner for people. And like, again, how can we change this system so this is not your experience, no matter one, who you are, but especially for those that have the worst outcomes, which are Black birthing folks.
Well, not to mention you were pregnant while Roe v. Wade is being overturned, which
Let me
is,
tell you, Bo, I
yeah.
had the hospital system that I was at.
Oh
The
my God.
doctor whispered to me and said, I can't tell you your choices, but you need to figure this out, because they would not say that I might need an abortion because my pregnancy was not viable. They would not say that to me because I was 20 weeks. And I'm like, so you would prefer that I carry something until it's time to deliver and then watch my baby die?
Mm.
Like it was horrible. It was the worst experience. So we transitioned to a new medical system and everything was fine. But again, it's just that process, right? Like again, I have all the access. I know these things. I'm working on reproductive rights, and that did not make me exempt from having this experience that totally changed me in a way that it shouldn't have.
Absolutely. And some of the most, well, you were there at the abortion event, the fundraiser that we did. And so this fundraiser was during Roe v. Wade overturned in Nebraska. And for listeners, we had people from all different walks of life share abortion stories and all different kinds of abortion stories. Like it's not a black and white issue the way
Yeah.
we like to make it seem. These are people who really wanted their babies. These are people and had to terminate.
Hmm.
These are people who were the victims of rape. These are people who were raised to be on the other side of the picket line, holding up the "you're going to hell" sign.
Hmm.
Um, and these are people who we haven't had this conversation in 50 years, held this
Right.
secret in until this event, so that they really felt like they were making a huge difference by sacrificing that secret for the larger story.
Absolutely.
And it's just horrific to me, especially in the climate that we live in, that women are so, our bodies are so always on the chopping block. The first thing on the
Always.
chopping block is our
I
own
mean,
body.
but you think about when could we even have a bank account without a husband? And when could we vote? And like it's always we are second class. And then when you add in race, right, income levels, right, it continues to layer around your opportunities for access and just autonomy and choice. And so I think, the work that's happening around reproductive rights now and putting abortion on the ballot, I think people are really clear. Even if you decide that you don't want an abortion, why then does my decision of what I choose to do with my body have to then impact yours, right? Like that autonomy, I think everyone can get around. Government should not be deciding your health care, period. And so, I'm really excited for what we're going to be able to do in Nebraska and what is considered pro-life, red, all of the things that our elected officials are saying that really represent their views, not the views of their constituents. Like that's not true. People really want power and choice over their healthcare decisions, period. And so I think for me, hearing even all of those stories at that time, it always is a reminder of like why we advocate and fight so hard and the importance of what we're doing.
Hmm. Absolutely. I've always wanted to run for office too, but I realize doing events like that is where my strength is. Because one, I'm not put together. You always look beautiful. I'm not put together. Two, I got a bad temper. I don't know where this is gonna go.
Listen, put on a bra for this campaign, okay? So for my people, I am doing that. And you would do great, Bo, because it's like you care about community. So then you end up, biting your tongue, sucking it up because that's what matters. And so I think it would challenge you to show up differently, but you would rise to the occasion, no problem. Like because you care and you do such a great job in all the other aspects of the community work that you do. And that's what we need. We need more like real people. Like we need folks that don't feel like they're porcelain and they, are career politicians. Like no, we need folks for the people that are there making decisions at all levels of government.
Okay, so in that realm, how do you deal with the haters? How do you deal with the haters?
How much time do you have now? It's been hard. It has really been hard because I have not engaged because, right? Like I know the perceptions of folks that look like me when I give critical feedback, and how that can be perceived. And so I really just try to tune out the noise, which it really is. I think my village reminds me of who I am and why I'm doing this. And I try to stay situated in that. And so, there's some days I'm not on social media. I post way less. Like I'm not scrolling. Like I'm just not doing those things because I have to protect my peace. Because outside of, just my campaign or the work for Every Black Girl, like I want to try to be the best mom. And when folks derail you and hijack your energy, then I don't have anything left for them. And so I really try to cancel it out. My husband is a very good soft land in place because I can just let it all out with him and he holds it, for me and like reassures me. But it is definitely hard. You do grow thick skin pretty quick.
Yeah. I think that's one of my biggest fears also is just like, the nature of social media and the nature of Omaha at some times as well. And it's like
But
when you're
it's so
trying,
connected. Like everyone knows everyone. Like it's a degree of separation.
yes. So it's just like, oh wow, you feel like that? Okay.
Yeah.
I
Good
didn't
to know.
know.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Okay, well, what can we look forward to seeing on your platform? What is your number one thing that you want to tackle as you move into
Yeah.
college?
So I think for me, being a community organizer and having the privilege of working and trying to solve some of our most complex, like community-based issues, they're all interconnected. And I think that's the difference of not having community folks at the legislature. People silo them. Like housing is over here, childcare is over here, addressing mass incarceration is over here. When it's like this is all connected. And so that's really my approach is to think about who are the experts, the closest people closest to the issue that need to be in partnership with me to curate not just the best policy and theory, but implementation, so that there's not the dissonance, there's not the room for error to cause really harmful, right, policy that is going to be in statute for potentially forever. And so I'm really excited to be able to work on health equity. So continue working on maternal and child health policy. I actually helped to support Medicaid expansion for postpartum folks from 60 days to a year. So going back to like the mortality, majority of deaths and near deaths are in that first year of life for that mom and that baby. And actually in Douglas County, the infant death rate is at 12%, the highest it's been and one of the highest in the country. And so you think if we can make sure that there's access to care, there's other barriers, right, that might come up, but at least the fundamental, you have access to care now, not 60 days after you've just given birth, but a full year, we see a lot better outcomes. And so I want to continue working on policy like that. I'm really excited for that. Lots of economic development. I think especially in the U.S., your economic circumstance really dictates a lot of your trajectory in life. And so making sure people have access to good quality jobs that pays a thriving wage, not just a living wage. How does that relate to if you can afford your home, the transportation in your community, how we can support small businesses and economic development that's not extractive but really pours in to the community. And so like for me, I'm just taking a more comprehensive approach to say, here are all of how these policies play together to really give people the good life that we say here in Nebraska. Like everyone should be able to access that no matter where you live, where you grew up, your education level, your gender, right? Like your culture, your race, like people should be able to access equitable opportunities. And so I'm just really excited to think about policymaking in a different way.
I love it so much. You're making my heart like pitter patter. Really like these are these are the policies that would have like changed my life as a child, changed my mother's life.
Absolutely.
I just
Yeah.
love that so much.
Well, and I think that's what we deserve, right? So I think our generation has an opportunity to lead in a different way that wasn't always granted permission to our parents and their parents. These young people have it together and they're demanding that we show up differently. And so that's why I wanted to run. That's why I'm excited about my campaign is like, now is the time. Like there's a lot at stake for us. And we saw that with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Politics are not just at the federal level, like at the state level, we need to make sure that we have people that really represent everyday Nebraskans' best interests. Because if not, we could have had a near abortion ban. We beat that by one vote.
Yes.
Like that makes a difference. And so I'm really excited just to be able to just, again, have a reset, a breath of fresh air in Nebraska and just a different type of leadership that I think, our kids deserve and that we're building the future for them.
I really like the conversation that you're having around Nebraska politics is just so different than what I hear from Nebraska as a whole politically, right? Because I feel, and my thoughts are my own, um, but Nebraska is just to me like the state that can be so easily bought, the
Mm,
state itself. And so then along with that comes the mindset of the state. And anybody who's got the right amount of dollars can look in and see, oh, I can get in there next and I can like do
yeah.
X, Y, and Z and get my property taxes like, where I need
Hmm.
it to be and all of this stuff. And then there's people that are really working like you, like at the grassroots level for the community. And there
Yeah.
is a ism there between the two.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But I think like that's what's causing, right, the change is that because that tension is being felt and people are like, I'm not standing for that. Like, we don't want just this wealthy perspective of someone who's not impacted by the policies that they are passing. Like, let's get someone that truly understands our experiences that is willing to fight for us and pass policy that makes our lives better. Why would you ever get into a public service role to make the lives of people like more terrible? Like, why would you ever target queer kids? Like, why would you ever want to strip funding from public education? Right? Like, why? And so I think people are like demanding and they're paying attention and saying, we're not going for that. And if you are not going to represent our interests, we will vote someone in that will. And so I think that's the tension and the transformation that is upon Nebraska as well as the rest of the country. And it feels special to be a part of it. One of my endorsements is from Representative Justin J. Pearson out of Tennessee, part of the Tennessee Three. And just like the movement that he is building just around like building political power of everyday folks and how he talks about it, like that's what this is, like, so yes, part of your job is thinking of great policy and being there and passing it, but like it's bigger than that. Like this is a bigger movement. And so I'm excited that hopefully we get more advocates down at the legislature that align to that too.
Okay, well, how can we support you? How can we get you into Lincoln?
So I need to have like a slide that pops up that lists all the things. So I think, volunteering, telling folks why you support me, donating are all three great ways to support my campaign. For the Ivy Black Girl side, volunteering, donating, see the themes, and just being an advocate for our mission. And just, I think about my goal, no matter what position I'm in, is to build a movement, right? I want a more just community. I want people to be able to actualize what they want for themselves, whether it's through Ivy Black Girl, through policy making, through just my everyday experiences. And so everyone has a role in it. So everyone has a way to use their position, their privilege, and their power to say, here is how I'm going to help achieve that. And I think that's what I really want people to lean into. Like, what is your role? How do you go deep in that and not be performative?
Absolutely. We will get a slide. We will find us something we can click and like make sure people can find you. Not that you probably have a lot of time on your hands, but if you do, like, what are you watching right now? Like, what's your palate cleanser at the end of the day?
Okay, so I'm not watching anything. I need to catch up on the Kings of Young. No, it's called The Mayor of Youngtown, and I can't remember what channel it comes on, but it's like this gritty East Coast like prison gangster like show, and I'm like, oh, it's so good, but I haven't been able to catch up on the season because my little one is always with me, and I don't want him to see these things. So once
Yeah.
I get some time, I'm going to catch up on that. However, my late night scrolling. My husband plays this game and it's like a mix of like Candy Crush, but better. And so like you do these matches, it has these boards. I'm on like board 1892. So like I'm so high in this game, but that's what I sit and play. I play that, like I get like the high score of the week. He and I are in competition, like, and so that's like just like what eases my attention is being able just to like hyper focus on this game. It's mindless, it's fun. I'm on a team with people, like it's great.
This game. We need to get bacon and tours
I
to
need
you.
to send it to you because he was playing. I'm like, what you playing? And he told me, and I was like, well, I want to play. And ever since then, I've been hooked. So now I'm like, how did you beat this level? Because he's a little ahead of me. And so, but yeah, that's what I use because you need to decompress. And so that's my fun. But otherwise, I watch a lot of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse,
Mhm.
Lila in the Loop. We do a lot of PBS.
I'm in that same world and I accidentally took Gigi to Deadpool. I didn't know.
You thought it was just a superhero movie?
So my boyfriend was like, we're gonna take the kids to the Marvel movie," and I was like, "Oh, great! Yeah, I love all the Marvel movies. The Deadpool movies are the only ones I have not seen." And so then he's like, "Are you sure about Gigi?" And I was like, "Yeah, she watches all of them."
Yeah.
Well, we're sitting there, and like the opening sequence happens, and I look at her and I was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Mom," and I was like, "I'm so sorry."
But you know what? Growing up, being born in the 80s, our parents let us watch a lot of movies in the 90s that, we're okay. So like it'll be
Yeah.
fine.
I was like, we could have left, but she was like enjoying it. All the other kids were there. The blended family is 5 kids. So
Yeah,
it's like,
it'll be fine.
yeah,
It's fine. Everything's fine.
well, Ashley, I am so rooting for you. Where can I get signs?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, Ashley for Nebraska. You can submit there or text me, inbox me that you need a sign. We can put one up in your yard for you or in your business. And also, Bo, just thank you for making this space. Like, I love how you create spaces for different narratives and experiences to exist. Like, I love the Stringlight stories.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so great because we're multifaceted people, and sometimes as moms, we're only put in this very specific box. And so I love that we can talk about all of the aspects of us in this way. So thank you for all you do in community.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do in community. And I'm glad to be here sharing this time and space in our city together.
Yeah,
I'm really
absolutely.
proud of you.
Thank you. Feeling is
Well,
mutual.
I don't know when this is gonna air, but I'm gonna try to put it up before the 17th. So
Okay.
before the Luli.
Okay, that'll be great. Just let me know and I'll share it out.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. You say hi to your beautiful family.
Same to you, and you look great. So,
Thank you. I'm doing some. I feel like I don't know. Have you heard about this? Let me turn the camera off. Hold on. Let me turn the record.